All right, it is 8 a.m., friends. Good morning. My name is John Fullwider. I am your host this morning for 6 Fixes to Get More Sales with my friend Rob Copenhaver of Sales Xceleration. I'm going to introduce Rob in more detail in a little bit. First, a little bit about some upcoming webinars that we have available for you. Mark your calendar for June 12th at 8 a.m., please, when we will have Steve Kunkel, membership chair of EO Nebraska, the entrepreneurs organization in Nebraska, talking about business owner peer groups. If you own a business, you need to be in a peer group for your happiness and mental health. You need to regularly get perspective from people who also have thrown up Thursday night because they couldn't make payroll on Friday morning. There is just no substitute for the camaraderie of fellow business owners who have been there and thrown up that. So EO Nebraska membership chair Steve Kunkel is going to be our guest speaker. Steve owns Stonebrook Exteriors and is passionate about seeing his fellow business owners actually enjoy owning their business. So be there June 12th at 8 a.m. And then on June 26th at 8 a.m., we will have Mike Frommelt and Tony Bednar talking about hiring the right integrator at the right time. A lot of people on the call this morning are familiar with EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system, that describes this key function in the business, the integrator, who frees up the visionary to be in her or his unique ability, makes the trains run on time, takes the plan and executes it, seamlessly integrates the work of the major functions in the business, solves the day-to-day in-the-weeds tactical problems. The book Rocket Fuel that describes the integrator, my gosh, makes the integrator sound like a unicorn. Where do you find one? How do you hire them? They make them sound like the best thing since sliced bread with strawberry jam. And there's all this mystery around integrators. How much do they make? How do you know when you're ready for a full-time integrator? What value could an interim or fractional integrator provide for companies who are building up to a full-time integrator? My guests, Mike and Tony, have actual answers and data collected from years of experience helping EOS running companies find integrators. They are the visionary and the integrator at Keystone Search, an executive search firm that has itself run on EOS for 10 years. And by the way, they did the integrator search for EOS Worldwide. So they found an integrator for the organization that invented the concept of integrator. So I think you'll really enjoy Mike and Tony, June 26th at 8 a.m. All right. A little bit about me, your host. I am John Fullwider. I am an EOS implementer, which means that I help visionaries and their leadership teams grow their businesses faster than they ever thought possible. We do it by getting you great at 3 things: vision and traction and healthy. So first, taking that visionary's vision for growing her or his business, simplifying it, clarifying it, getting it into everybody's heads so they can execute on it. Traction, instilling discipline and accountability in your business so everywhere you look, people know what your vision and plan are and they want to work to help you accomplish it. And then healthy, starting with your leadership team and eventually going throughout the whole company, we're getting everybody to be members of healthy, cohesive teams who work well together and actually enjoy working together. There's a little bit more detail on this that I can share with you at the end of today's Zoominar. If you're interested, stick around for after Rob's talk, and I'll share a few more details about how by strengthening 6 key components of your business, those 136 issues that are flying at you from left, right, up, down, backwards, forwards, diagonal, making every day a crazy whirlwind in your business, man, we can just calm all that down and help you get a grip on your business so you're running it rather than it's running you. But enough about me. Let's get to the star of the show today. Rob Copenhaver, my friend, is your presenter. He is an expert at creating sales teams, implementing sales infrastructure, and breaking all-time sales records in small and medium-sized businesses. He was an accomplished sales hunter and sales leader before he joined the Sales Xceleration network of outsourced sales leaders. I love Rob and Sales Xceleration because everything they do is EOS compatible, and EOS running companies often hire Sales Xceleration and vice versa. Now, those of you on the call who run EOS with me or with somebody else, you know that EOS running companies already have the foundation for strengthening their sales departments because they've already begun strengthening the people, process, and data components. Rob is going to show us this morning how to build on that foundation to fix 6 problems with your sales department. Before we clap for Rob as he comes on stage, let me just tell you that we welcome questions at any time. Type them in the chat or in the Q&A function there in Zoom. I will ask those questions of Rob. We welcome questions at any time. With that, let's actually have a round of applause. It'll feel good even though he can't hear you for Rob Copenhaver. All right. Several people are using the raise hand function to simulate applause. Great job, team. Rob, take it away.
John, thank you very much. Let's see. All right, everybody. All ready to share my screen? Hopefully that came across okay.
Yes, we are seeing it, Rob. All
right. Okay, let me move you out of the way here. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, John. Again, I'm Rob Copenhaver with OSX Sales Solutions. A little bit of introduction on myself. I'm with OSX, stands for Omaha Sales Xceleration. We are a member company of Sales Xceleration. Sales Xceleration has 125 advisor companies with over 2,800 combined years of experiences. We've worked with over 1,200 companies over the past several years. We've increased first year sales cumulatively by $1.4 million. So a little bit about, or $1 billion, so maybe get that right. So a little bit about me, 28 years of experience on the sales side. I've worked with 27 companies across North America. I've helped 9 companies cash out and get acquired. I got an MBA from Creighton University, and I have my CSL designation, stands for Certified Sales Leader. It is a designation given away by Sales Xceleration. So today we're going to talk about 6 fixes to help you with sales. One of the things Sales Xceleration does is we're very, very big into the data. So what we do is we have a assessment that we give out to all of our new customers, no matter who they are, to establish a base. What you're looking at before, and you look at the very bottom down there, the percentage of people who rank themselves as poor or below average. So we had above average, we had satisfactory, we had below average, we had poor. 87% struggled with sales strategy, 90% struggled with sales methodology, 88% struggled with sales analysis, and 87% with the sales organization itself. So we're finding that CEOs, presidents, owners of companies are just not satisfied with their state of the union when it comes to sales. So what is sales? If you look here, what my friends think I do, upper left-hand corner, I just party all the time. What my parents think I do, I provide a very nice, valuable service, very cute. What society thinks I do, used car salesman. What my prospects think I do, that's probably true in the past. What I think I do, very studious, very stout, and what I actually do. So, got to tell a story here. I have not been in sales my entire life. I started out as an insurance accountant at Mutual of Omaha. I was in the accounting profession for 9 years, and then I moved over to the actuarial department of National Indemnity. Not certain if that was an upgrade or not. I had the opportunity to join a small vendor over in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that sold accounting software to insurance companies. Since I was an insurance accountant, I was a natural. I helped design the product. I helped implement the product. And I was the subject matter expert, or the sales engineer, as they call it. Back in the day, they called me Demo Boy. So Demo Boy, on his very first sales presentation ever, I flew out to Los Angeles, California. I went with our Western sales rep, walked in, talked to the CFO of a company for about an hour, had a yellow pad, asked a bunch of questions, wrote a bunch of notes, and we're walking out the door, and I turned to Lynn Bernstein, who took me in there, and I said, Lynn, what happened? She said, well, what do you mean what happened? I said, did he just buy from us? And she said, no, he didn't buy. I said, did he just throw us out? And said, no. I said, well, you're the salesperson. Don't you say the magic words and hypnotize them, sprinkle fairy dust, and they either buy or they die? She just laughed, shook her head, and said, you know, Rob, she goes, there's nothing magical about this. This is the process that we do. We're going to go through. We're going to have more meetings. We're going to have demonstrations. There might be an RFI or an RFP. I said, what's an RFP? She said, you got a lot to learn. A year later, I was offered a position in sales. That was 1992, and I've been in sales ever since. So sales is not magic. It's best practices. So what I deal with is the organizational infrastructure. That's one of the things that I do. And the quote there, great salespeople will fail if the sales infrastructure is wrong. I frequently hear CEOs of companies say, I hired people, they came highly recommended. I know they were just killing it at the other company, and I don't know why they're not doing it here. I don't know what the problem is. A lot of times the infrastructure is not there. So we're going to look at 6 key points here today. Number 1, no sales forecasting. Number 2, lack of a defined sales process. Number 3, improper and ill-prepared staffing. Number 4, wrong compensation structure. Number 5, no systematic measurements. And number 6, weak sales leadership. A lot of times people say, Rob, you've been in sales for a while. How do you speed up sales? What is that? Again, what's the magic silver bullet to speed up sales? The key is you better be strong at all 6 of these, because if you're weak at one of these, it doesn't necessarily speed up sales, but it certainly will slow things down. So number 1, sales forecasting. And at the bottom there it reads, and this projected sales increase has a margin of error of 100%. So basically forecasting the future, which is the future. So you need to have a target in order to hit a target. A lot of times I deal with companies. I deal with a lot of startups in my career. A lot of times I was like, well, what's your sales forecast? First year, 1 million, second year, 2 million, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 32, with no plan to hire any more salespeople or anything like that. We need to establish a target. And one thing about once you start to measure things, they just kind of start to improve. And I find this quite often is as we establish targets and just start to measure before we even start implementing, things start to get a lot better. When you establish these targets, they have to be SMART goals. What does SMART stand for? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. At the bottom there, communicate and agreed upon by staff. Not only the sales staff, but across the entire organization. Last thing you want is the salespeople turn around saying, yeah, we're going to do 50 million next year. And the ops people are saying, but we're only doing 1.5 million today. Well, how are we going to ramp up to do that? All has to be agreed upon. You need to have variable forecast. You need to have a low, a medium, and a high. I mean, who would have forecast the COVID thing? That would be on the low side of things. Don't know if anybody forecast that one, but you got to take that into account, and you got to be flexible to have that. You need to look at your key customers. I worked with a company one time who hired me, and I said, what's your problem? They said, we had our major client left. They were 80% of our business. It was like, whoa. So you need to look at your key customers. Are you growing them? Are you shrinking them? Are they leaving you? What's your competition doing? Do they have a new offering? Are they shutting their doors, which would be a good thing for you? You need to look at your new business and renewals. Yeah, new business, the new logos, as we say. Are you out there getting new logos? On the renewal side of things, are we renewing them? Are we charging them more upon the renewals? You need to look at the products and the margins. Which products bring you the most margin? Do you focus on those? You need to look at subscription fees, very popular now. I like that recurring stuff. I mean, you need Microsoft out there, 365. It's a lot less to buy, but you pay for it every single month, and it adds up. Look at the one-time, look at the product fees, look at the services fees, and actually have a forecast for all of those. You need to look at the quotas of the salespeople, and one thing that is a big thing with me is If you had 5 salespeople and each one had a quota of $1 million, well, the total sales forecast should be 5 million. It's a math thing. I never like it when the total of the quotas never equal the total of the enterprise. This is going to drive how many salespeople you need, and it will coordinate and share with the rest of the business so that the sales organization is not a hidden organization, it is transparent. So here's the sales process. It's a very complex process that you follow, and then you close the sale. A lot of times we make it way, way more difficult than it needs to be. So the sales process, what is that? A strategic planning and the tactical implementation. What are we trying to do, and how are we going to try to do it? Next thing, make it simple, make it easy to buy from you. So one thing somebody said to me one time, they said, you know, Rob, I noticed when you sell to people, you really simplify things. You make it easy for them to understand so that they can buy from you. And I guess I impressed them. They thought that I was really trying to do that intentionally, but actually I was just simplifying it for myself so that I understood it. But it did make it easier for my customers to understand and easier to buy from me. Your unique value proposition. Why do you win? You're defendable, competitive. A lot of times I'll ask people, what is your unique value proposition? The number one thing I hear is our people. Problem is your competition can say that, and a lot of other people can say that too. So what is it that you absolutely can say, we do this better than anybody else and nobody can touch us here? Why does your competition win? You need to identify what their unique value proposition, and you see the SWOT over there. So what is the competition's strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats? You need to build the persona of the perfect customer. And I always tell people, you know, we always like to try to go after it all. We come out with a sawed-off shotgun and just start blasting away, and anything falls out of the sky, we run after. We need a more formalized approach, because what if you're so busy you just can't take on another customer, and you said yes to that one customer that was kind of a square peg in a round hole, and the perfect customer that your product just fits perfectly and it's going to be easy, the margins are bigger, and you can't take them because you already took the square peg in the round hole. So identify the perfect customer for you, and then prospect. Develop prospecting specific to that perfect customer. You need a sales playbook. This will help you manage the sales stages of the pipeline. You have prospects, you have suspects, you have people that are in middle of discovery. You're presenting solutions, you have proposals, you're doing contract negotiations. Companies who are in those different stages of the pipeline need to be treated differently. Many times, not always, but many times people develop flow charts, especially if there's a lot of people and a lot of departments that are touching it. This is an important part of understanding the flow of how do we sell. You need action plans for each stage. That is, when we're at a certain stage, what are basically the items we need to check off before we can go to the next stage? What are the documents available? What are the communications that we need to tell? Is there a newsletter that goes out that we send out weekly, monthly, quarterly? Well, it might depend upon where they're at. And the old sales toolkit. Those of you who've been in sales for a while, I've been in it almost 30 years. We got a lot of stories. We got a lot of pretty funny stories that we can tell. A lot of things we've encountered, and a lot of useful things that we can use going forward. We call that the toolbox. And one thing you learn is you get a lot of tools in that toolbox. You don't pull every single tool out every time you go in. You got to listen. You got to learn. You got to ask the right questions to know what tools you bring out of the toolbox. But over the years, you want to have a big toolbox. Sales process, CRM. I've been in software sales, so I'm kind of on the technical side of things. I'm not an IT guy. I can't program. I took Fortran on 80-column punch cards back in college, which confirmed to me I didn't want to continue in IT. But I also learned that computers and applications can remember and repeat things a whole lot better than I can. So the CRM, Customer Relationship Management System, this is where you track all of your prospects and all of your customers. And since I worked for software companies in the past, I used to like to go up and ask the trick question to different people across the organization, what's our most important asset? And of course I heard, our people, of course we always hear that one, our software, the building that we're in. No, the most important asset is your customers and your prospects. which are in the CRM. And if without the CRM, you're not going to know who those people are. So it's vital that you have one. First thing the CRM will do will help people sell, salespeople sell. How? You have prospect histories, notes, emails, documents, phone calls. You have the rating, the prioritization of where are they at in the process. I always hated it in the past where I'd call up and I'd talk to somebody and say, hey, Joe, it's Rob. I just wanted to talk to you about that proposal I sent over to you. And Joe would say, Rob, you called me yesterday and talked to me. And I'm like looking really dumb right now. So CRM can prevent you from doing dumb things, but remind you when you have upcoming scheduled tasks to do. I always love it when I'd be talking to somebody and I'd say, John, when do you recommend I call you back? Can you call me back a week from Thursday? I certainly will do. And I put it out there, and next Thursday it comes up and I call him. I'm calling you, Joe, or John, because you told me to call you. It can also help guide the process flow. So as you go through the different stages, you enter notes. It can also have a workflow built in. It helps management manage. It does pipeline management. It does forecasting. It does resource planning. Any of those that you have worked with me, you know I'm very big into pipeline management. I love to have it in a CRM. When it's automated, there's a lot of things you can do with it. But even without a CRM, I always do it in Excel, and we update it on a weekly basis. And it's a real pain. Nobody likes doing it. I don't like getting it that way, but it's something you have to do. And the CRM turns this into something that just happens automatically. You don't have to put a pipeline report together as long as you're updating things. It also looks at process modification, because you get all sorts of reports out of the system. And if all of a sudden you have a stage of the sales cycle that is always getting stagnant, everybody's piling up, there's something wrong. What is it? How come after we do the presentation, nobody ever buys? Well, we can do a deep dive. Everybody can look and say, you know something, maybe that PowerPoint presentation that's 300 PowerPoints long, maybe we're boring them with that. Integration with other systems. This is one of the newest, best things that you have out there. I love it. When I send emails out of Outlook, it records it to my CRM. When I send it out of the CRM, it records it to my Outlook. You can have integrations with accounting. You can have integrations with proposal management systems. So a lot of these integrations that are out there right now just make your job easier. It also helps marketing, because depending where they're at in the sales cycle, within the CRM, and a lot of marketing applications can be integrated with the CRM. Also, it will track your new business, your renewals, and your upsells, and your what I call itch cycles. So on the renewal side of things, if you have somebody that's coming up in September, you probably want to start talking to him about renewals right now. If you wait till the last second, you might find out he's in a deep dive with somebody else. It's a competitive situation, but you didn't know about it and you're not participating. So that helps you. On the upsell side of things, hey, we got some new stuff. It's always easier to knock on a door that said yes before and get them to say yes again. And itch cycles. Well, you found out that they're with your competitor, but you found out that they're not totally happy. And in a year from now, they're going to start looking around again. And you know that it takes about a year to find a new system and implement it. Well, the itch cycle is now then. CRM adoption, why salespeople hate to use them. It's just more work. It's a lot more typing. I got other things to do. I'm fine writing it on my calendar. I keep track of it in Outlook. Those are all excuses. If I'm on the phone talking to somebody, I'm entering notes as I'm talking to them right into the CRM. As soon as I hang up the phone with them, I establish the very next activity that we agreed upon. If I had a very favorable where they said, yeah, send a proposal, then what I would do is I would actually put the proposal together and I would move them up to the proposal stage of the sales cycle. So a very, very good thing. Why do people love to use them? More money, more commission. I felt that technology, when I was a direct sales hunter, was a competitive weapon for me because I came from an IT background or worked in a lot of IT projects, even when I was on the accounting side. And I used the CRM like nobody. And I bet I probably had 10 times the number of prospects of anybody else in my organization or my competing organizations, which showed in my numbers. So the other thing is consistent, accurate data. You need to have consistent, accurate data. So another story, I was working for a publicly traded company down in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was a division head at that time, and I had my one-on-one meetings, and I would review the top 3 deals that were going on in the pipeline. And I had one guy come in to me and sit down, and on his pipeline, he had ABC company, ABC. I looked at him and I said, Jeff, you've been talking about ABC forever, and you finally got him on your pipeline. That's congratulations. You've broken through. That's wonderful. And he turned to me and he said, yeah, I'm thinking about calling him. I said, you haven't talked to him yet? I said, not yet, but I'm thinking about it. I said, so I need to go in and report to the CEO of a publicly traded company who's going to tell us to the board in the world that we're pursuing ABC company. You haven't talked to him yet. He's like, yeah. I said, no, that's being a little too optimistic. He leaves my office. The next guy, John, comes in, and I'm looking down at his pipeline. I'm like, John, you've been talking about XYZ company. You said the contract's coming in tomorrow. I don't see him in the pipeline. He goes, yeah, it's coming in tomorrow. I said, why aren't they in the pipeline? He goes, I just don't want to jinx it. I'm like, oh. So you as a good sales manager, you look at those inconsistencies, especially in a publicly traded company, to coach those people to have more consistent data. And when you have that, you have a treasure trove of information. Proper sales staffing. Am I the only one around here who actually enjoys closing deals? So something about salespeople. Everybody loves being involved with the sales process. I go out with sales engineers, or I would bring along an implementation person to talk about the implementation side of things, and they loved it. We'd go in, we'd talk for a couple hours, we'd leave. Oh, this is so exciting. I wish I could be in sales. I want to do that. I'd say, great. I said, see that phone over there? Pick it up. You call somebody that you've never talked to before, doesn't know you at all, and convince them that we need to show up and come in and talk to them about how we're going to solve some problem using our product. And they would look at me and go, okay, I don't want to be in that. Sales just is not for some people. You've got to love to close. You've got to love to take it all the way to the end. So a lot of great account management, very, very vital to your company, but there's just something different about a closer. So proper staffing. Number 1, how many people do you need? Okay, remember when we put the forecast together and anticipated volumes? That's how you figure out how many people. And notice how over to the right, I say no half people. So let's say you have 3 people and you're wondering whether to hire another person, and you don't really need a full-time person, but you need another person. So you kind of have somebody do half-time sales, and no, don't do it. Hire a person, designate them in sales, and that's all they do. No half people around. Also, the right people in the right seats. Do you need hunters? Do you need farmers? A hunter being somebody out there, looks for new logos, finds them, closes them, throws them over the wall to the farmer. And the farmer is an account manager. Again, somebody who grows accounts, very, very valuable to the company, can grow to huge volumes, and takes care of current customers and defends against the competition. Is this a complex sale? It takes a couple years to close it. We're going to get a whole team involved. Or is it a transactional sale? I'm selling my pillows over the internet or on my phone. Do you need inside or outside sales? My very first sales job over in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, we had an inside sales staff. We had a little product sold for $2,000 a year. They'd do demos over the phone and they would sell it. I was selling something that was more outbound, and I would do a lot of traveling. And so we had an inside and outside sales approach there. Subject matter expert. How technical is your product? Sometimes the salespeople can go out and explain everything. Other times it's so technical that if you got all the salespeople up to speed on the technical side, you'd be training them forever. They'd never have a chance to sell. So you designate one person as a subject matter expert to support that person. Do you have lead generation? A person or a group of people, and all they do is generate new leads, set appointments for you. And another thing to think about when it comes to the right people is corporate culture. This is huge, and a lot of people don't think about this. And what I always tell a lot of people is, just because you had a killer hunter, did a great job at a Fortune 50 company, when they come to your startup, can they do it? And a lot of times that person at the Fortune 50 company, or even, smaller companies than that, they're used to having a support staff. I joined a company a couple decades ago, and I was the only person there for a while. We began to build, then we got acquired. And the acquiring company, when they did sales presentations, they had a group of 12 people they brought with you. I was used to going out by myself or maybe bringing one other people. That was their corporate culture. Well, anybody that works in that environment where you have all those staff goes to a startup, they're not used to that. Also, I got Midwest versus New York City. There's some people that are just, great relation, more small town people, Midwestern. You go to New York City. I had problems competing in New York City for a long time. I finally figured it out. I don't know what I did. I guess I didn't figure it out. I just started working, but it's different. And vice versa. I had a woman that worked for me. She was from the Jersey Shore originally. She sold IBM on Wall Street. And if I would have had her pursue an opportunity in Waco, Texas, they'd probably take her out back and shoot her. And she was just that aggressive. Also, the most important part, a good hire. All sales managers out there, you hire a good hire, your job is much easier and you look much better. So you got to find a good one. So good salespeople know what to do. Why? Because somebody told them how to do it or what to do. Here's the list of what you do. Great salespeople know how to do it. So a little distinction there. So hiring the best. So salespeople can sell themselves. So beware. When you got the job interview going on, a lot of times you're like, wow, this person's great. Then you find out the only thing they can sell is themselves. Use behavioral assessments. Find out a lot about them. Optionally use outside recruiters. They do this on a full-time basis. They're pretty good about sniffing things out, using assessments, testing people, making sure that they follow up in a certain amount of time. After you hire the best, you want to onboard them. You want to get them up and going. I always kind of giggled when I'd show up at a company and it'd be like, oh, we forgot you were coming. We don't have any passwords for you. And, we don't have a computer yet. Or before the first day, get all that stuff put together, all the HR paperwork, all the sales stuff, day one, week one, month one, and quarterly. Have goals, have a checklist. Annual appraisals. Of course, we all go through annual appraisals. I loved it. When I was in accounting, I remember my boss, he said he had to say one bad thing about me. So he didn't like the fact that I would stand on my chair because the cubicles were 6 feet tall and I'm 5'10". And when I wanted to talk to somebody next to me, I didn't want to walk around the cubicle. So I just stood on my chair and he didn't like that. Once I got into sales, numbers, you hit your number, you didn't. I loved it. I loved being that subjective, but it's not just quota. It's how well you get along with everybody else. Remember, this is corporate culture. If you're berating the operations or the implementation people that actually solve the problems for the customers that you promised that you would solve their problems, that's not a good thing. Job descriptions, clearly defined tasks, set expectations. Salespeople love expectations. They'll complain about it. Oh, we got to do all that. But they love to know what's expected of them. Who gets involved and when do they do it in the process? The old, that's not my job. Be very clear about this. What is your job and what is not your job? I worked with a company and I was working with a guy trying to make a better sales organization and found out the sales organization, 75% of the stuff they did wasn't sales related at all. And so I turned to him and said, my job is to get the sales organization selling. You guys doing 75% implementation work. So do this. Next time that you're about ready to do a task, ask yourself, how much commission do I make off this? And if the answer is none, don't do it. Now that sounds kind of brutal, but I was trying to make a point there. Also, job descriptions used in the hiring process, set requirements and activities, and clearly define territories and named accounts. Last thing you want is the jump ball, first one to it type thing. Set it up by state, set it up by product, have named accounts, but have ownership of those accounts within your territory. That gives you accountability. So compensation plans, favorite part for salespeople. You look at these guys trying to figure out one of my compensation plans that I had in the past. So when you look at small to mid-sized companies, this was a study done by Sales Xceleration, 19% of it was all base, 15% was all commission, 25% was a high base, low commission, 21% low base, high commission, 20% was 50-50, and that's kind of where I shoot for. Sometimes I get a little less with the base, depending upon what they're at. If we want to have highly compensated, and sometimes it's a little more salary if it's kind of a startup and don't really know what the sales are going to be. But you want to have some sort of commission and one sort of base. The reason being, salespeople are coin operated. I had a guy tell me that one time. I thought it was great. You need to incent their behavior to be consistent with organizational goals. What does that mean? If you design a commission plan that doesn't sync with the goals of the company, it's a bad situation, because third bullet there, or second indent, salespeople are going to exploit that plan. That's just going to happen. They are going to find out the easiest way to make the most money. And a lot of people shake their head and, well, that doesn't seem right. No, it's perfect. You just need to design a plan so when they exploit it, they're headed in exactly the direction you want them to. Commission is not a bonus. Huge. Do not think of commission as a bonus. Salespeople love motivation. They love being paid commission. Commission should come out, I believe, monthly. I'm not opposed to quarterly, but that's my second choice. But this keeps people going, keeps them updated, keeps them motivated. Once you get that big commission check and you go, man, this is great. And then you look at your pipeline and go, oh God, I just sold everything out of my pipeline, panic. Guess what happens? You get out there and you find a bunch of more ones. Sales is the easiest low-paying job and the most difficult high-paying job. So if you have some salespeople that just are kind of fine with the base, heck, why not? Just hang around. Pretty easy job. So if you think of it, base pay will allow you to eat hamburger. Commission will bring you the steak and the lobster. Be more concerned about underpaying your superstars than overpaying your superstars. I was in a meeting one time. It's a bunch of CEOs and presidents of companies, a big round table, and one of the guys raised his hand, and he said, hey, I got a problem, and I want to know any other CEOs here if you have a similar problem, but my top sales guy makes more money than I do. And one of the other CEOs raised his hand and said, give me his business card, and I'll take care of that problem for you. So commission plans, how do you develop a commission plan? First of all, you decide how much do we want this person to make? And that target is based on what? It's basically based upon what your competition's doing. Then you look at it and you say, if you're at the 50-50 of I've indicated here, you do the math. Commission is only for dedicated full-time sales staff. If you have a sales engineer, put them on a bonus program. If you have other people to participate in supporting sales, put them on a bonus program. But do not provide commission based on having that individual closed transaction go to somebody who's not in sales. Because what will happen a lot of times, is somebody typing there? Okay, there you go. Because if you have people that are, like I was in a place one time, they had an IT person, and any time that they would touch a sale, they would get a piece of it. Well, guess what? They touched everything. And they got away from what their full-time job was doing. Put them on a bonus program, no problem. Commission draws. A lot of times you get that new salesperson, they were making great money, but they got to come over, start over with you, start a new pipeline, and they're like, I can't live on this. I'm not used to, my family's not used to living on this. You might give them a commission draw, which says for 6 months, we're going to give you an extra few thousand. It's like a loan that you'll pay back, and after 6 months, you'll be making so much commission, everything will be whole. Bonuses and contests, anytime you have them, have a specific goal in mind. We're trying to hit a certain number. We're trying to push a certain product out there. And significantly reward the top performers. Don't make it proportional how much your top performers make to your bottom performers. Make it a lot more for the top guys. Those are the 80-20 rule. Make the plan simple to calculate and administer. A great plan is one when a salesperson is about ready to close a sale. In the back of his mind, he quickly does the math and goes, aha, that's my commission. Perfect plan. I love those plans. And it's simple for the administrator, some accounting person, my background, to be able to sit there and administrate these things. You want to update them and change them every single year. And in sales, we always joke that the quota goes up and the percentage goes down. It is a fact of life, but the fact is you're still targeting an at-plan amount. And as far as a player coach or a player CEO, where you have somebody, I'm a direct seller, but I'm also the sales manager, or I'm the CEO, but I also sell directly, doesn't work. It's not a long-term. It's a short-term thing. It works well in a short term while you're expanding or something, but don't think that's going to be a long-term thing you can do.
Hey, so Rob, we've got questions. Rob.
Oh, okay, great. Fire away.
Question number one comes from Joe Roy. He asks, how do you deal with the staff/administration that does not understand sales and throws roadblocks in the way?
Yeah, very important. One of the things you got to do is you got to make the sales organization transparent. Again, my very first job with a vendor, they brought me in. I was not in sales. I was in operations side, so we all had these big cubicles, and we'd all work, and we were all heads down, quiet. And there was one area where they had small cubicles, and everybody was loud and screaming. And that was sales. And everybody talked about, oh, that's sales. They're different. They're very, very different. You need to make them not different. You need to get them out, go over, talk to the other people, explain what you're doing, explain how they fit into the process, what their job entails, and how it supports you making the sale and the successful implementation and the success of your clients. Once they see the bigger picture, it'll make a big difference. Also, maybe implementing bonus programs or something like that could help, something like that. But mostly is about transparency and open communication.
All right, and then our second question comes from Anthony Montag. He asks, Rob, you make a strong case for having a CRM, and I like the idea of having a CRM, but what are the steps to successfully putting one in place? I see more examples of garbage in, garbage out due to bad setups. And he specifically says bad setups, not bad software.
Yeah, yep, 100% correct there. Pretty much all the CRMs out there are good in one way or another. Some are better than others, depending on what you're doing. They're all crappy if you put in bad data. I've walked into companies where they have a CRM up and running, and I'm like, great. Then I look at what's in there, and they bought a bunch of databases and imported them, and they were horrible databases that had nothing to their customer persona, and they just jammed it up. I was in one company, they had 15 stages in their sales cycle to close a business. So all the salespeople used two, prospect and customer. Those are the only two they used. So yeah, when you set it up, you got to keep it simple. You got to streamline it. So Joe, the first thing I would do is I would sit here and say, who are our customers today? Number two, who are our prospects today? Number three, what are our sales cycle stages, the pipeline? And then we're going to take those prospects and sort them and put them into that. Once you're there, you're ready to put those into the CRM or update the CRM to be accurate with what you have there. A lot of times people use Excel to help them get there. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's move on.
Okay, so systematic measurement. Simply measuring will improve results. We said that. Something called mile markers or scorecards. EOS, familiar with something like that. Just don't wait around for the annual numbers. You know, how'd you do last year? Well, what'd you close? Okay, we all know everybody measures that. Well, what else along the way? How many appointments did we have? How many phone calls did we make? How many proposals did we send out? How many on-site field inspections did we do? There are good mile markers and there are bad mile markers. An example, one of the first companies I was working at, we had internal prospecting people that made phone calls. They would say, it was great. They would set appointments for me, and then I would just go out and hold the appointment. And they were making about 30 to 35 calls a day. They got a new sales manager that was really trying to make them do better, insisted on 60 calls a day, thinking, well, 60 is nearly double, so we have about double the number of appointments. We had less appointments, much less appointments. And the reason being, when I was talking to the internal prospecting people, they said, a problem is everybody was so worried about hitting 60 a day that when you got a good one on the phone that wanted to talk, all you wanted to do was hang up because you had to make another phone call. So there was a bad mile marker there. As far as measurement, CRM, there's another one, Joe, for the CRM to be able to do these things. And the thing about a CRM, it's real time. When you're dealing with these reports, usually the best you can do is on a weekly basis. It's in Excel. A lot of times it's on a monthly basis. And a lot of times what you're having to do is, if you're a sales manager, you're getting 5 different spreadsheets from 5 different people and you're merging them together. CRM takes care of all that for you. Weekly pipeline reports. So you're not, whether they come out of the CRM or you're developing them, is sitting down with the sales staff and making sure that every stage of the pipeline is increasing. You have new prospects coming in, meaning we're prospecting. The people that were prospects, they're becoming qualified, the qualified people. We're doing discovery on the discovery people. We're moving forward to solutions. We're going to proposals. So everything is moving forward. We're also looking at the top 3 candidates to help strategize on how do we close these. And also a shared business plan. And this goes back to how do you have other people in the organization who necessarily have been kind of butting heads with sales. Get them involved. Put the shared business plan out there that sales puts together, out there with the operations people. Get everybody to agree on it. It's funny, when you have people who help you set it, that goal becomes immediately accepted by them. If you turn around and just say, oh, here's what we're going to do, and just take it, and they don't always agree with that. So sales management, what my friends think I do, sit around playing my ukulele, what my mother thinks I do, what society thinks I do, that's probably right, what my colleagues thinks I do, what I think I do, and what I really do is pull my hair out again. So sales leadership versus sales management. There's different types of, I've worked with a lot of different sales managers. I've reported to them in the past. There are those that I call the desk jockeys. They sit in their office, they put together Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoints. They don't really go out and help people close business. They just manage their desk and try to manage the staff from the desk. Then there are deal stealers, and that is when the sales manager goes out, they want to get involved with everything, and they try to take over, and they try to close the business. So you don't want either one of those. The great ones are the developers of people. You go out with your salespeople, keep your mouth shut, you say 2 things. Afterwards, you tell them what they did right, what they did wrong. So where do you find the sales leader? I'll tell you right now, the sales leader, the sales manager is the worst trained person on the planet, because usually they just grab somebody and throw them into that position. And a lot of times the skills you need to be a sales leader is different than any skill that person ever had in the past. So where do you find the sales leader? CEO? That's always your first one, because that's the way it happens. You started the company. Then your best salesperson. Well, the best salesperson was always kind of pushing the edge of the envelope all the time. And now you put them in charge of other salespeople, probably not the skill set to have there. That usually doesn't work out at all. How do you hire them? Skill set, you put together what the skill set for the sales management is, different from the skills for the skills of the salesperson. Give them behavioral and skills assessment. Look for management expertise and experience, that they've done this before, maybe in a similar type market. Is it a remote sale force? Several times in my career, I managed salespeople that were all over the United States, and that's different than managing people that are sitting right outside your office. Here's a good one too. But the candidate is not from our industry. Too many times people say, hey, you know what? We need somebody from our industry. They need to be an expert. We got to find an expert from our industry. Well, first of all, that really narrows the field. It significantly narrows the field. A great salesperson, great sales management person will learn the industry. So what I always like to tell people is, if you got 100 people in your company, they're all industry experts. If you hire the 101st expert in your industry, is that going to change anything? No. You need to bring a sales leader in. So what's sales leadership doing? Coaching, mentoring, training, hiring, firing, inside and outside training. Sometimes you do it. Sometimes you contract outside people to come in and do the training. There's advantages. They bring back that expertise and share it with everybody. There's something called a performance improvement plan. This is when somebody is kind of failing and you give them a 30-day or 60-day window to improve it. Usually you're telling them it's a 30 to 60-day window for them to be able to find a new job. And here's a big one. Keeping a bad salesperson is not fair to them, and it's not fair to the organization. Usually when I had to have that difficult conversation with a salesperson, I would sit down with them and they would immediately understand this is not for them, and kind of just terminate themselves. Meetings are critical. I always like to say, if you got a good salesperson, give them a good product, a good territory, and a good commission plan, and get out of their way. and they'll go out to do it. And that's pretty much true, but you do got to check in on them. So you have meetings, and the number one meeting here is one-on-one meetings. They could last 15 minutes. They could be an hour. And there's what I follow here, APOC, what accomplishments. So on a weekly basis, I meet with each person. This is development. What did you do last week? Next one, P, planned. What are you planning to do next week? O, obstacles. What obstacles are standing in your way that I can knock down? And C, comments. What do you want to tell me? What do you want to talk about? This is your time. Let's hear it. So here's where you have your one-on-one meeting. Another thing is you look at their pipeline. Are they growing every stage of the pipeline? And individual deal strategies and tactics. Depending upon the size of the company, give me your top 2, give me your top 10, whatever deals you're working on, and explain where they're at to me. And the last thing I want to hear is, well, I'm waiting on this one, I'm waiting on that one. No, I have a plan for each, and here's what's going to happen, and here's when it's going to happen. I had a boss one time, sales manager, knew less about sales than anybody, knew less about the business than anybody, but he was great at saying, did you consider this? And really kind of making you step back and go, you know what, I'm looking at this wrong. So a great sales manager will do that. Also, team meetings. This is where you get everybody together and share, because if Joe did something last week and got burned on it, the last thing I want to hear is Mary went out and did the exact same thing and she got burned on it. Let's share those things at these meetings. So if somebody did something and it didn't work, and we don't repeat that. And if somebody did something that did work, that, yeah, we want to repeat that. The QBR, quarterly business review on a quarterly basis, get together. Every salesperson is a CEO of their own little territory, right? That's the way they got to look at it. They own their own business within a business. But you want to get together with the operations people too. And again, Joe, this is how you open it up to the rest of the company to say, yeah, we're getting exposure to what sales. We understand what they're trying to do, and we want to help them now. And of course, annual reviews when you sit down and give them the new commission plan. The last meeting down there is a ride-along, and that is whether you fly or drive or just hang on the telephone in a conference call, but you just sit in the background, keep your mouth shut, and let the salesperson try to sell. And afterwards, here are the 3 things you did that were wonderful, and here are the 3 things that you should probably work on. Those are critical. So,
Rob, we've got questions.
I saw that. Let's hear them.
I'll ask them out of order because one refers just to the slide you were on. So Teresa asks, hang on, scrolled off the screen. Teresa asks, how often do you recommend the one-on-ones with your salespeople?
Every week or every other week. My preference is every week if possible. Make them systematic, scheduled at the same time every week, and try to never, ever miss them. If you start skipping these, moving them around, sends a wrong message to the sales team.
Exactly. And let me just reinforce that. I said at the outset, friends, for those of you who run EOS or are interested in running EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, everything Rob is telling you is EOS compatible. This one-on-one meeting that he's recommending with your sales force, that is a meeting pulse. Remember, one of the tools that enables us to get traction is having a meeting pulse where we keep our circles connected. And what makes a meeting pulse is same day, same time, same agenda, starts on time, and ends on time. You're familiar, of course, with the level 10 meeting for the leadership team. That is a type of meeting pulse, but so are these one-on-one APOC meetings, right? He's saying the same agenda needs to be APOC, right? Those are the 4 steps in your agenda. Okay, a question on another topic. Rob Sarab asks, are there any particular resources for early stage startups where resources are low and the founders will most likely be doing it themselves?
Yeah, Sales Xceleration. I mean, this is the reason Sales Xceleration came to be, is to help startup companies, smaller businesses, businesses trying to grow. The sweet spot for companies at Sales Xceleration, I would say anywhere from $2 million in revenue to $20 million in revenue. We go all the way up to $300-400 million. That's unusual. We deal with startups that are at zero. And I've walked into several startups myself where I was in somebody's basement crawling over the top of file servers to sit at a card table because we called it the boardroom. But there's a lot of resources there. Even if you don't contract with somebody like myself, there's a lot of materials that we have that are free that are on our website that I'll gladly point you to that I think would be very valuable for you.
All right. That's it for questions. Let's go on to the next slide then.
Okay. Sales leadership, clearly defined expectations. We want to develop accountability. Salespeople like to be held accountable. They'll complain about it like crazy, but they want to be held accountable. They want to know what the expectations are. They want to know what the goals are, and they want to know what the reward is if they beat that goal. And if you can do that, you're going to have a well-motivated team. Communicate open and often. Repeat a repetition of a consistent message. I drive my wife crazy. I repeat myself all the time. It's a habit I've learned over the years. It's a great sales thing, but my wife's not in sales working for me, so she kind of reminds me to quit repeating myself. Be consistent with actions for everyone. Okay, everybody, you have to have this report in every Friday, but there's Joe. He never turns it in, but he's just killing it, man. So I'm not even going to ask. And then comes that day when Joe isn't on a hot streak anymore. And you're like, okay, Joe, you need to do that Friday report. Why? You never had me do it before. Why should I have to do it now? You need to be consistent with actions like that. Also, everybody else knows what everybody else is required to do and not do. So you want to celebrate the superstars, but don't let them out of any expectations. Make the sales function transparent to the rest of the organization. Help operational staff feel involved. What you might do is periodically have one of them sit in on a sales call, travel to a sales call to sit there. You take one of your technical people, say, I'd like you to come along and sit there. And I don't know if any questions are going to come in, but if they do, and then they come in there and they're excited. They see the interaction. They kind of understand, oh, this salesperson asked a lot of good questions. There's a technical question for me. Oh, and then they get a talk and they feel like they really helped. It's a big motivational there. And celebrate wins across the entire company. Sales always have their little thermometer, or we always had bells. Whenever anybody got a sale in, they'd start ringing a bell. Well, let's make sure that the operations people hear that and participate and enjoy it. All right, that brings me to the end. We covered the 6 different points. We have something called the Sales Agility Assessment. We have 2 versions of it. One is 10 questions, and it's real time. You answer these 10 multiple choice questions, takes you less than 5 minutes, and it'll give you a score about your preparedness for growing sales. We have a much larger one. It's 41 questions. And that's usually when somebody is doing a project with us. It establishes a baseline of where they're at today. And then after we get done with our consulting gig, we have them take it again to measure what the improvement in their scores are across the entire infrastructure. So this presentation today dealt with the infrastructure, setting that up so that you can get top quality salespeople and getting them in there. It didn't hit a lot upon the actual training of the salesperson and how do you close business. That's another subject, because you got to have this in place first. But this sales agility assessment. So anybody, let John know if you're interested in taking that. We can send you links to it. So.
Yeah, and Rob, let the audience know that I will be emailing all of you a recording and a transcript of Rob's presentation today. So be looking for that in your email. In that link will also be a link to take the Sales Agility Assessment. And it is illuminating. So sort of steel yourself for what it will reveal. It's scored on a scale of 100. I myself got 32 out of 100, so I now know a lot of areas I need to improve in the sales department of my business. All right, Rob, anything else before we open it up for Q&A?
No, I just want to thank everybody for listening to me. Any questions that you have, please answer now. If you think of questions later, please email myself or John.
Yeah, and Rob's contact information and his phone number will be in that email as well. Friends, start typing away furiously in Q&A. While you start thinking of your questions, let me just recap a few of my favorite parts from Rob's presentation. My gosh, did he ever share a bunch of valuable information talking about CRMs. Computers and applications can remember and repeat things a lot better than I can. Your most important asset is your customers and prospects, which are in your CRM. Let's see, we've got another question. Anthony asks, we are working with someone that's an industry leader in our space to generate leads and then put them in a process to nurture those leads and bring us qualified leads that we can develop a relationship with. This is a first time for us. What has your experience been with outside lead generation?
So one of the nice things with Sales Xceleration, they've been around about 8-9 years. They've developed national partnerships, strategic partnerships with EOS and a lot of other companies. And there are 3 separate lead generation, pipeline management, appointment setting, whatever you want to call them, vendors that we deal with, that we make as an option to the customers that we serve. The key to this, the ultimate key to, they do a great job. They all seem to do a great job when you set them up correctly. This means you got to have an airtight, perfect customer persona. The better you define what the perfect customer looks like to you will allow them to target their calls to the right people. Otherwise, they're going to be calling some people that are outside of that. So you're going to get interest. You're going to be following up with people that is the square peg in the round hole. And it can be a lot easier than that. Sales doesn't need to be that tough.
So Rob, you ended up answering Matt Foley's next question with airtight customer persona. And I'm going to actually pose Matt's question. Then I'm going to answer it from an EOS perspective and let you build on that answer. So Matt Foley says, about your comments about square peg in a round hole, working with clients who end up being a waste of time / divert time away from better clients. Any best practices to avoid this? All right, here's my answer. Best practice is to run EOS, get your leadership team to agree on your marketing strategy, which has 4 questions. The first of which is, who is your ideal client? So when I'm working with clients, the question on the EOS tool says target market. I double down and I say ideal client. Man, search your memory for clients you've worked with who kicked your tires and lit your fires. Those people who, man, they lit you up so much. You so enjoyed working with them that when you worked with them, you did remarkable work. And as a result of that remarkable work, they, wait for it, remark about you. And so when you work with those ideal clients, you have this brass ring answering the mail, referral-driven business. Get the leadership team super clear about who gets past our red velvet rope, and that will help you avoid wasting time with square peg in round holes. Rob, what would you add to that?
You're absolutely right. And I mean, like you mentioned that EOS and Sales Xceleration have been hand in hand national partners for, I think, about 5 years now. We sponsor your guys' annual summit. You sponsored our annual summit. And the crossover is we are the sales rock. We go deep on the sales rock, but there's a commonality across the whole organization that you're talking about there. Who is our perfect customer? What does that look like? And then all of our efforts should be pointed at going after the perfect customer, because you just get frustrated when you chase after customers that are outside. Everybody gets excited. Every salesperson wants to go chase everything. They get a call and, the company's going to buy. We got to get out there. The toughest thing is to be able to sit back and go, this isn't a good fit. If we landed it, the margins aren't going to be there. We're not certain we can deliver it right. They're going to be mad at us,
We got time for one last question, and we'll have a deep dive question from Sarab on customer persona. He asks, is that the buying organization's persona or the check writing decision maker within that organization persona?
Oh, great point. It's both. It's absolutely both. So you gotta, yeah. What does the organizational look like, and then who is the prototype person in that organization that we usually is our first attempt to go into, and then who's the backup after that. But you're absolutely right. Is it do we call the IT person because we're a technical company? Do we call the ops person? Do we go straight to the CEO? Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, great. Okay. Friends, thanks for all your great questions. We have one about social media that we've left unanswered. Rob has that, and we'll reach out to you directly with an answer on that, Anthony. What I want to do on this bonus material here, which is talking about, just a second while I get back to my screen, talking about EOS. So we started off saying that I'm an EOS implementer. What I specialize in is helping companies really solve issues with their organizations by looking at the 6 key components of your business. So let me just give you a really quick tour. Sales gets fixed in part by focusing on your people, your data, and your process component. Let's talk about all of those components. So, and let me put this in context. You're running a business, you're a sales leader, you're the CEO, you're the owner of a privately held business. Man, 136 things are flying at you every day, from up, left, down, forward, backwards, and diagonal. Man, there are wastebasket fires burning right outside your office door, dumpster fires in the parking lot, smoke gets in your eyes, you can't see the forest for the trees. It is wild and crazy. And so what we know is that to the extent you will look past those 136 things and just focus on 6 key components of your business, oh man, it just tends to calm everything down so that you have a grip on your business and you're running it rather than it's running you. So let me shoot you forward to the end of the journey that I take with all of my clients. Companies you've heard of like Company Cam, EP Concrete, Eye Care Specialties, Montag Manufacturing, and many, many more. We go on a journey together to strengthen your vision component. What that means is getting everybody in your company all on the same page with where you're going and how you plan to get there. And further, everybody in your company knows their part in accomplishing the vision and they want to accomplish it for you. We strengthen your people component, which means we define great people uniquely for your company, getting the right people in the right seats so that you can actually accomplish that vision, because you can't get to that vision without great people. And actually what we do is we make talent attraction and retention simpler and easier because we create this compelling culture that attracts the right people and repels the wrong people. We strengthen the data component. Rob talked a lot about the data component and keeping up-to-date forecasts and keeping leading indicators rather than lagging indicators. So at all times, week after week, you know what winning means, and you've got a scoreboard visible so you know how close you are to winning the game, right? So what we do is we eliminate this practice most companies have where they keep track of the health of the business with guesses, egos, and assumptions. No, we're boiling it right down to real measurable data that give you an absolute pulse on your business. We also strengthen, take a look at the lower left-hand corner of the picture here, we strengthen the issues component. What that means is that, man, frustrations are going to arise, obstacles are going to come, things are going to tick us off, people are going to tick us off. At EOS running companies, we just have this culture and this discipline of talking about those issues out in the open and solving them as they arise, rather than doing what most companies do, which is wrap them up in duct tape and baling wire, stick them in the corner, hope they don't explode, and by the way, they always do. We're strengthening the process component, getting your core processes, your secret sauce, your unique way of adding value, getting it simplified, documented, and followed by all. That's what's going to give us predictability, profitability, ultimately scalability to any size that we desire. One of those processes is a consistently followed sales process, like Rob has outlined for us, and he can teach you to dive deeper on. And then the last thing that we do is we strengthen the traction component. That means bringing that vision down to the ground week in and week out with discipline and real accountability. Friends, it is no mistake that the EOS model here looks like a wheel with vision at the top and traction at the bottom, because what we like to say is that vision without traction is hallucination. If you try to get one without the other, my gosh, you're just going to do what most other business owners and business leaders do, which is, man, they're frustrated. They're scratching their head. This just isn't working. I'm not getting what I want out of my business. I'm already working 70 hours a week, and I think it must just be me. I'm not working hard enough. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to press harder on the gas pedal and work 80 hours a week, but I don't have traction. So here's what ends up happening. I spin my wheels, throw up a bunch of mud, frustrate myself and others. Oh man, and that's not what I want for my friends building great companies with great people, serving great companies serving great customers in the greatest state in the union, Nebraska. So that's why I love sharing EOS and traction with anyone. Give me a call if you'd like, 402-202-2820. If you'd like a free introduction for your leadership team to EOS, it takes 90 minutes, gives you all the information you need to make a great decision about whether you want to run EOS, and if you do, whether you want my help implementing it in your company. All right, so a couple of quick reminders before we conclude. Remember, June 12th, Business Owner Peer Groups with Steve Kunkel. June 26th, Hire the Right Integrator at the Right Time with Mike and Tony. That's it, friends. Thanks so much for being here to see Rob talk about 6 fixes to get more sales. Watch your email for additional information. I'm going to double check the chat function if there's any more questions. There are not. Friends, it's been great having you here. Enjoy your Friday. Have a restful weekend.